A lot of people and a lot of teams to get this building back and running.
The Incident Command Center for Sutter Health was extremely valuable in helping us restock with supplies quickly and giving us all the support that we needed to make this happen. And then, of course, the people here on the ground working. We had about 55 cleaners here on this last weekend. They're medical professional cleaners cleaning the hospital. We've been restocking the hospital with supplies.
So hospital officials tell us that they want people to know that if this is a place that you come to for care, or if you're in the area looking for care, the doors are open for you. Reporting live in Santa Rosa, Hermela Argawi, KRON 4 News.
Thanks a lot, Hermela.
We'll take a quick break and be back with more coverage in just a minute.
Have gathered here for comfort and food, free of charge.
We just thought if we can get open, we can at least be a place where people can come by and just kind of recharge.
But meantime, you are evacuated too.
Yes, yeah. My family's been evacuated out of Sonoma.
Do you have any idea when you get to go home?
No, I don't. I'm hoping sometime next week, but I don't know.
Investigators say it could be weeks before they can pinpoint the exact cause of these fires. Elaine officials believe the fires here in Sonoma County should be fully contained by Friday.
Chris Martinez, thank you.
Sheriff's office! Where you at? Right here. Come on. Screw your shoe. Come on. She's disabled. All right. Let me get her feet. Her husband's right behind you.
555. Sheriff 1 San 4, we need to make a priority evacuation now, Mark West Springs area.
Copy that. We're trying to get the fire department to handle it.
No, fuck, I gotta get out of here.
Copy.
Oh, don't hit me. God damn it.
Okay.
49 San 4, don't pass. Do not pass.
George 49.
Jose, this is the evacuation zone. It looks like a ghost town. You can see this entire area has completely been leveled. Cars like this gutted out and hollowed out by fire. And now, with more winds expected tonight, this fire may become even more deadly.
Sheriff's office!
100,000 Californians under evacuation as first responders
go covering a new fire this morning, so that means weather is still key. The winds are important.
Yeah, you know, it's still pretty calm as far as the wind speeds go, and we are also tracking some pretty dry air right now where humidity is still in the teens up in the Boulder Creek area. I just updated the our wind graphic here because I was just checking out the forecast, and it looks like for the Boulder Creek area, we are looking at winds to come in from the northwest this morning, then changing to the north, which means the northerly winds will blow south. So we are tracking the possibility of some smoke being blown basically south of the area and also areas south and east of Boulder Creek. In the Santa Cruz area, the winds will be blowing westerly and then moving eastward. So we're looking at fairly light winds, though anywhere from 5 to 10 miles an hour. You can take a live look here at Morgan Hill. I wanted to see if we could see any sort of haze in this shot. We see a few high clouds out there, but but you might notice some smoky conditions, especially farther south of San Jose this morning and afternoon because of that fire burning up in the Boulder Creek area. In San Francisco, we'll still call it patchy smoke and some haze. Highs topping out in the lower 70s, so quite a bit cooler today compared to yesterday's highs, which got into the low 80s. Mid-70s in Oakland and 81 in San Jose. Okay, air quality forecast for today. It's improved for a lot of locations. Still, though, unhealthy for sensitive groups in the North Bay. But rest of the Bay Area looking at moderate levels for today. We'll probably see levels in the good green category come Thursday and Friday. Right now, temperatures are in the 40s still in the North Bay, 55 in Oakland, 52 for our friends in Concord, and 58 in Mountain View. Our mild spot, San Francisco, only 61 degrees. We're warming up into the 70s for the East Bay shoreline, including 75 in Hayward. We'll see mid-80s in Concord and Antioch. In the North Bay, another warm day, low 80s in Santa Rosa and Napa, and the air is still pretty dry, so the relative humidity levels are going to be still very low once again today. That's not good for firefighters, but what is good is what's coming this way. Yep, we've got some rain headed this way, and also much cooler air. It's going to dive in from the Gulf of Alaska, already bringing rain to the Pacific Northwest. We'll get some of this moisture by Thursday night and into Friday, but the models are kind of backing off on this rain. Here's a look at our long-range look. There's the rain coming in. It kind of just skirts Ukiah by early Friday morning. So I think the North Bay will get some of this, but then this model here just keeping it to the east of us, out toward the Sierra and the foothills. And so kind of skipping San Francisco and areas south of it. But we'll keep that chance of shower in for the rest of the Bay Area Thursday night and mainly Friday morning. And yes, the Sierra, they'll get a little bit of snow, probably a couple inches. Here's a look at your 4-zone forecast for the next 7 days. The cooling will continue into Friday. Boy, look at Friday. That is going to feel like a fall day. But the cool temperatures are short-lived. We'll warm things right back up to above normal highs by the beginning of next week. Let's check out your traffic now with Robin. A lot of hot spots earlier, and you're still tracking hot spots.
Yes, it's looking much, much better on the San Mateo Bridge 92, recovering from an earlier accident, which was blocking at the decline of the high-rise portion. At one point, this drive was almost 2 hours. Now we're down to 27. So the accident cleared, traffic much, much better, but still crowded heading over to the peninsula. Here's the Bay Bridge, 80 West looking good in the carpool lanes. Everyone else sitting in traffic from the maze, but it will get better across the upper deck. 12 minutes for the drive-in. Checking in on Traffic Tracker now. Because of the earlier problem on the San Mateo Bridge, the Dumbarton 84 West was a good alternate, but now the traffic has improved. Some folks are still taking the Dumbarton Bridge. That's why it's now 51 minutes, because folks are just using that to avoid 92. But 92 looks better, so I'm going to send you back over to 92 since it has thinned out, because the Dumbarton, just way too many folks using it right now. 237 just as heavy, 23 minutes from 880 out to 101. Quick check of the rest of the Bay Area. We're doing fine. These drive times are normal. South 680, West 24, the East Shore Freeway, and 880 San Jose to Milpitas. Slow, but normal. We're going to take a quick break, and the Cron 4 Morning News will return in a bit.
Oh, there's so much smoke I can't show you the view. Izzy? Here, pup. Izzy? Somehow, the vineyards made it. Izzy! Toy structure still made it. Tractor made it. The tractor is totally fine. Izzy's here. Izzy! Izzy! Izzy, come here, baby! Oh my God! Izzy! Oh my God! Hey, baby! Izzy, hi. She's a lover. She just wants to kiss on everybody.
It was one of the greatest moments of my life. It was elation. We came walking around the corner. We didn't expect to see her. We were just there to video the house for my parents and see what we could find, and praying that she might be there. And she came bounding out, and it was evacuation. Tears, happiness.
Carter, what is it like where you are, and what's the reaction from people who live there?
Well, you know, the reaction from people who live here is they want to go home. Even if their homes are like this, they want to come back and see what's left. I mean, as you can see, there really isn't much left. These homes burned to the ground entirely. The only thing you could see standing over here to your left is the garage door on this home. As far as the latest with this fire, well, they had some more mandatory evacuation orders last night. 3,000 people in Santa Rosa were ordered to leave their homes. You see, right now, there's not a breath of wind where I am, and this is the way it's been for the last couple of days. Last night, it was a little different. Around midnight or so, the wind picked up, and it really kicked up this fire again, started driving it back toward a portion of Santa Rosa. That's when they got all these people out of their homes. But it is not a situation like it was earlier this week when people only had minutes to escape.
Yeah, it was tough to see those pictures there. Carter, another big question. How long do officials expect these fires to continue for, and when are they saying we could see an end?
I think it's really going to depend on the weather. And today is a big, important day, and here's why. If the wind stays calm here right now for the rest of the day, they're going to be able to make some headway. That place where it broke out, a couple hundred acres right now, they're going to be able to get around.
Other news that we are following, jury selection for the Kate Steinle murder case is underway. Jose Zarate
and a hose around it, too, so you've got a wet line there, and you can put out any hot spots that come up. That's what they're working on. The Tubbs fire, one of the biggest one here, is 25% contained right now, so they are making headway. All of that can change, though, in a heartbeat with the wind, so it's really going to depend on the weather. And what we have in the forecast is some windy weather, but we've had that in the forecast the last couple of days, and it hasn't really materialized as much as they had expected, so we're hoping for the best.
And Carter, for the past couple of days, we've been hearing about a large number of people that are still unaccounted for. How much hope is there?
There's still a lot of hope, I think. I think there's hope that there is confusion in those numbers. There is hope that maybe someone is staying
overnight
with
while you were sleeping. We'll update you in a live report on the latest from Boulder Creek.
In that way. But right now, what they are doing is a targeted search. So let's say they cross-check a name on the list. They're not hearing from that person. They check with the family members. Okay, well, now they go, well, where were they last seen? Let's go to that address. Let's bring a cadaver dog. Let's check it out. And that's what they're doing.
All right, what about a cause for the fires?
Sorry, I missed that question.
What about a cause? Do we know what may have caused these fires yet?
Oh, cause. We do know this. It's going to be very hard to determine a cause, and here's why. You know, for instance, when you look at this home here, imagine if you were trying to determine exactly where the fire started in this home. Everything is burned. So firefighters would have to go through the rubble, and they'd have to look for the area that was burned the most and try and determine that. That's what they've got to do on these fires now, but we're talking about thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of acres. So what they're doing is they're looking for the obvious things, power lines. We know it was very windy on Sunday night. In fact, I've seen video out there of power lines blowing in the wind and crossing and sparking. Firefighters had told me that did start several spot fires in the area. So that's one potential thing they're looking at. And in fact, regulators have asked all the public utilities around here, the phone companies, the power companies, to hold on to anything that may be suspicious. A burned telephone pole, for instance, or maybe some conductors on a power line that were burned. That's something they're going to want to investigate. The problem is when you've got rubble like this everywhere, a lot of your evidence has already been burned, so you've got to look for other clues.
Just devastating to watch. I can only imagine what it's like just to live through it. Carter Evans in Santa Rosa, California. Carter, thank you.
Sure.
Izzy, come here, baby. Oh my God. Izzy. Oh my God. Hey, baby. Oh my God. Everything is gone. That's where the garage used to be. Table saw is still there, or whatever that thing is. I'm not gonna walk through this. It's pretty hot. Izzy's here. Izzy. Izzy. Izzy, come here, baby. Oh my God. Izzy. Oh my God. Hey, baby. Oh my God.
So Rob has been updating us on the fires in California. You heard earlier the governor of California saying it could be one of the biggest tragedies in state history.
Dire warning there. The situation has been, as we said, really distressing. Adrian, however, has been focusing on one bright spot.
Yes, everybody come to your TV screen right now. You have to watch this powerful video. One family, like so many others, lost their home driving through the flames with only seconds to get out. They had to leave their beloved dog behind.
And our breaking news coverage, Crown 4 covering the fires, the wildfires burning in the North Bay, and the new fire that broke out just this morning in the darkness when we went on the air at 4 a.m. Here's what it looked like, the fire burning in the Santa Cruz Mountains at this hour.
In terms of size, 125 acres burned so far, 150 people evacuated, and we've got almost 250 firefighters currently battling this blaze right now. And Crown 4's Will Tran has been out there following their progress. Let's get out to him now and get the very latest from the scene. Will?
Okay, so James, Daria, they said at the news conference that they would have a helicopter up maybe in the next hour or so. That was just conservative because right after the news conference, they took to the air, and I've seen 2 helicopters already crisscrossing this area, trying to drop water down to this very remote, rugged area. They have been able to access it with troops on the ground, firefighters on the ground, walking around, and that's how some of the firefighters got hurt in the overnight hours. If you're just joining us now, a total of 5 firefighters injured. 1 was an inmate helping with the fire efforts. That person had smoke inhalation, taken to the hospital. Then right before sunrise, so it was a little bit lighter, although it's dark at that time, 1 firefighter on the ground doing foot battles or foot patrol in that area, trying to fight it from the ground. That person fell down a ravine about 50 feet, broke his wrist, and then over the course of the next hour or so. So the news conference is around 8:15, so somewhere between 7:30 and around 8 o'clock in the morning, 3 other firefighters were hurt, but according to the chief with CAL FIRE, those 3 should be evacuated at the scene and does not need, or they don't need to be taken to the hospital. This fire, the good news is the acreage remains the same. 125 acres burned, and that exploded in the overnight hours. This started at around 11 o'clock last night. It started with a fire at a structure, not sure if it's like a garage or a home, but they're just saying it's the structure. And then it exploded to 30 acres, and then it jumped to 125 acres. Right now, where we're sitting, 0% containment. Fortunately, no fatalities, no homes eminently threatened, but they were able to get ahead of the fire, told some people, about 150 people in the area, you have to evacuate now before the fires get too close, and at that time, it'll be all-out panic and chaos. When they were able to evacuate these people, these are windy, steep roads. It was in an orderly fashion where they were not injured. I can tell you, driving up here from 17, it's about 6 miles up the hill from Highway 17. There are plenty of checkpoints, and there are a lot of residents out there at the checkpoints looking at the firefighting efforts, looking at what's going on, trying to get updates from the CAL FIRE crews that are still arriving at the scene. That number jumped. In the overnight hours, they had a handful of firefighters. Right now, we're sitting at around 250 firefighters, and they have the ability to call even more firefighters to the scene. You can see there's that ridge, that hillside, that's called Bear Creek Canyon, I should say, and how rugged that is. CAL FIRE said the winds are not a problem, right? And that's what they were dealing with in the North Bay, the winds, which carried the embers all over the place. So firefighters were just racing around trying to put out the fire. It appears that the fire is in this area, so the winds are not carrying the embers. And I can hear a helicopter getting close to us again. So maybe my microphone will be able to pick up the helicopter. But the roll down effect, it's a steep area, so if one tree is on fire, that gives way and that falls downhill, and then gets another area that's just as dry but untouched by the fire. Well, that area catches on fire as well, and that's why they will be here for quite some time. And helicopter continues to pick up water, comes back to this area, tries to put out the fire. I don't see any huge towering flames, but you can see the smoke still just as loud, just as strong. I'm just excuse me, just as smoky, just as black and thick as what we saw. Yolia Seves, can you zoom in? There's that helicopter, guys. They said at 9 o'clock they would do that. They're up even earlier than that, dropping some fire retardant down to the water. And I talked about the acreage, right? 125. They're dropping water, but it's a dual purpose. Fighting the fire, but also going up in the air, getting a bird's eye view of how large this fire is. So 125, but that number as far as acres expected to go up as well. Back to you.
Hey, Will, as we look at your shot, where are the homes in relation to that? Not the one that burned down, but the 100 homes that are clustered in a certain area and then they evacuated.
It appears that those homes are on the other side of the ridge. So there you can see on the treetops there, yeah. Those homes are to the right and on the other side of the ridge. Those are the homes, that's where the homes were evacuated. There are homes all over the place in the Santa Cruz Mountain, right? This is Boulder Creek. It's not like, obviously, downtown San Francisco, where they're side by side by side.
Yeah.
No, they're spread out, and that's the good part. In fact, you mentioned homes. Let's quickly show you Yolia Seves. There's a home right next to us as well on our right side. So this is just, this home pops out of nowhere. You drive along the roadway and then a home pops up just like this.
Wow.
So it's all over the place, all over these mountains. So we're talking about 150 homes that had to be evacuated. But the good news is no homes eminently threatened. And you heard me ask the Cal chief live on KRON 4 at the news conference. And that's the good part. 0% containment, but they're throwing everything that they possibly can at it. And he mentioned to me a little bit earlier this morning, of course, the North Bay fires are making international news, but the good news is it's starting to scale down just a bit. And if they need to call those firefighters to drive down from the North Bay, that is available to them as well. Daria?
All right. Thanks a lot, Will. Yeah, that's good news as far as the wind goes, and he referred to that. And you could see the smoke wasn't blowing like crazy, which is great.
And so that's a benefit to firefighters right now. We've got Annie Hong in the Weather Center tracking current conditions there in Santa Cruz and the North Bay. Let's get the update from her now. Annie?
Hey, guys. Yeah, relative humidity still in the teens for Boulder Creek at this hour. And you can see where the winds are going to be blowing in from the northwest in this area throughout the morning hours, then turning northerly. So any areas south of Boulder Creek in the Santa Cruz area may get some smoke this morning and afternoon. And Santa Cruz, the forecast calling for winds coming in from the west and blowing east. So potentially places like Morgan Hill, you might encounter some hazy conditions this morning. Here's a live look at the Golden Gate Bridge. And speaking of hazy here as well, because we're still dealing with some air quality issues around the Bay Area because of the fires burning in the North Bay. So our forecast for today, we are going to begin the cooling trend, and temperatures will drop a good several degrees around the Bay Area compared to yesterday's very warm highs. 70s for the Bay shoreline today by 3 p.m. And then for our inland locations, we'll see a lot of 80s. Right now, it's 55 in Oakland, upper 50s in Mountain View, 61 in San Francisco. And for the North Bay, we're tracking 40s at this hour. We'll talk more about the rain that's headed this way coming up a little bit later. But first, Robin's been tracking hot spots this morning. We'll check out what's the latest with that. Good morning.
Good morning. Let's head over to 84, the Dumbarton Bridge. Major delays heading west this morning because of earlier issues. It started with the crash on the San Mateo Bridge, so the Dumbarton Bridge was being used as an alternate. Well, the crash on 92 cleared. Folks are still using 84 west, and it's crawling. You're looking at a whopping 51 minutes from 880 across the bridge and over to Bayfront Expressway. 237, also a very slow ride from 880 out to 101 in Sunnyvale, 27 minutes. So make sure you leave as early as you can. Here's 92. It's looking much better. Once again, the accident cleared, but it's still crowded heading over to the peninsula. And the Bay Bridge, business as usual heading into San Francisco. You are still backed up into the maze, but it's moving well across the upper deck. The time now is 8:38. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Home that firefighters were working very hard to protect. You see how painstaking the work is. They're doing everything they can to try to get rid of any fuel, anything that the fire might catch on. So even using saws, chainsaws to get rid of low-hanging branches so that the fire doesn't jump from the grass to the tree to the house.
Correct. What you saw was They're a strike team of engines, which is 5 engines of the same type with the leader. They're a functional unit. They came in, went around those structures. We're being aggressive and getting rid of those ladder fuels, which is that brush we were talking about that takes takes fire from the grass up through the brush into the trees. So they're getting rid of that so that the fire intensity stays lower, kind of what we saw with that backing fire, yes.
So these guys right now, they're about to put out these hot spots and make sure that this thing is totally extinguished?
Correct. These crews will stay here. They'll monitor this line because, of course, we don't want to get into what we call the green over there. So they'll continue to stay here and monitor this, continue to protect these structures.
It's fascinating work, and the strategy involved in fighting these fires has been really interesting to learn about.
It takes a lot of coordination, a lot of hard work. We've had crews, unlimited sleep, high stress, still aggressively.
Unlimited, the opposite of unlimited sleep. You've had no sleep.
Sorry, no sleep. Exactly.
Very limited sleep. Very limited sleep.
So very limited sleep, but they're still being aggressive in their tactics to protect houses and to try and control this fire.
And as we've watched the winds kind of move erratically this morning, you really get an idea of why you have said to everybody, you guys have told all residents in this area to be paying very close attention to emergency services, because these things change minute to minute, hour to hour. You don't know when you're going to need people to evacuate.
Absolutely, and life safety is our priority. So the more people heed those warnings, the less risk of life safety and the detriment to that out here when we're trying to take care of this.
Time now 8:41, covering some other news across the state. We have Governor Jerry Brown now having signed a bill allowing California drivers to choose their gender on their driver's license. This is the state's latest effort now to support the LGBT.
They're getting the upper hand on these fires because the weather is now favorable for the first time in a week. Take a listen to what they just said.
A week ago, this started as a nightmare, and the day we've dreamed of has arrived.
But there are still more than 200 people missing in the
Santa Cruz County, where a wildfire broke out this morning. It was sparked by a home fire when we went on the air about 4 o'clock this morning. So we'll have new news on that, containment on that, the firefights, some injured firefighters, and also about 150 evacuation orders.
Areas are safe and that they can identify any further victims before letting people go back in. This weekend, Governor Jerry Brown and Senators Dianne Feinstein and Kamala Harris toured the hardest hit areas while emphasizing that conditions could change at any moment.
Listen to whatever the police chief or the fire chief tells you. The fire is unpredictable, depending upon the winds, depending on various factors. So this is a matter of expert opinion, and I would say listen to the authorities as you hear it through the media, and don't try to freelance on your own.
That said, even with the optimism, it is another red flag warning day, and the fire crews on the front lines will be keeping a close eye out on those winds. And if they stir up, that could present potential problems. Also, this is an area that is driven by its wine industry. At least 8 wineries were destroyed by these fires earlier this week. The long-term economic impact of that, Leland, still not known because so many parts of this region still under evacuation. Leland.
Yeah, oftentimes it takes a few weeks to actually figure out the long-term impacts. Will Carr there, Santa Rosa, California, will thank you.
As thousands had to flee their homes for these wildfires, we're getting new video of the harrowing escapes made by, this case was a couple in the middle of the night. They were roommates, Mike Veen and Leighton Smith. They threw their dogs into their car. They took off through the flames and the smoke. This is the Cascade Fire near them. They captured their escape on this video.
We shouldn't be driving into this gorge. Oh my God. It's this meadow, dude. I can't breathe. Come on, Expedition, baby. You can do it, girl. We shouldn't have come this way. There's our only option, dude. We couldn't have gone back. There was no way of going back. It was gonna blow right through our house. My eyes are burning, man. My eyes are burning too, dude, but we still got oxygen, so we're not dead yet. We're on the road, we're on the road. Dude, bust through that gate if we have to. I can't get out again, I guarantee it. My hands were burning going out there. I can't see. I can't see. Oh my God, dude. The straight caught on fire. The road's on fire and I know.
Mike, Leighton, and their dogs did drive through that gate. They made it out unharmed. Their home, their possessions were all lost in the fire. Multiply this story by thousands, you get an idea of the devastating impact of these fires.
Tonight, the heroes and the bravery in California. Vicki Walker hugging this firefighter.
And welcome back to the Cron 4 Morning News. The time now is 8:45. Lots of heavy traffic around the Bay Area this morning, and it's only Tuesday. Several more days that you'll be dealing with this before we get a break on the weekend. The Bay Bridge 80 west into San Francisco stacked up coming out of the maze, but no big problems. You'll get a break if you're carpooling. Everyone else sitting in traffic, but it's under 15 minutes from the maze over to Fremont Street. Lots of heavy traffic through San Francisco from South San Francisco all the way over to the 80 split. It's recovering from an earlier crash. 280 jammed out of Daly City from the Highway 1 split over to the 101 split. So keep that in mind, bumper to bumper. Here's 580 heading to the Richmond-Santa Fe Bridge. I don't see any big trouble spots, but yes, it's slow crawling from Castro right through the tolls. And checking in on Traffic Tracker, you are recovering from earlier minor problems. If you take the Nimitz, it's going to be a slow ride leaving San Leandro from 238 all the way into downtown Oakland. Shave off maybe 4 minutes or so, 5 minutes if you take 580 west, but both are packed this morning without any major issues. So leave as early as you can and pack your patience. Highway 4 looks a lot better. Your drive time going down.
We've got a cool to mild start this morning with some patchy smoke once again. For the afternoon, the cooling begins. It's a gradual cooling trend. We'll see highs in the 70s and 80s across the Bay Area today, and then much cooler weather arrives for the end of the work week. And with that, yep, we are tracking some rain to head this way. Our air quality forecast for today, we are seeing some improvements in the air quality. The North Bay still unhealthy for sensitive groups, but as you can see, everyone else in the yellow, which is moderate air quality for today. We're still under a spare the air for this Tuesday, since we do have unhealthy for sensitive groups to moderate air quality levels. The ozone and smog may increase during the day today, along with that increase in particle pollution. The wind speeds, I'm happy to report still calm conditions for much of wine country at this hour, including Sonoma Valley. Right now, temperatures are cool out there, mid-50s in Oakland to 60s in San Francisco. Highs will be in the 80s for Napa, 83 in Livermore, 70s in Oakland. We are going to see some rain head this way. Right now, it's still far north of us, but with that rain, we'll see the winds pick up a little bit, but that'll usher in cooler air. You can see rain potentially in the North Bay Thursday night. Then on Friday, most of it's out of here, and some places in the Bay may even not get any of this rain, according to this model. Here is your next 7 days. We're tracking warmer conditions for the weekend and above average by early next week.
8:48 right now. Let's give you an update on the North Bay firestorm. We have seen some progress. The numbers are moving to the positive. Containment's getting a lot better, even throughout the morning.
Yeah, some of these containment numbers have jumped dramatically here since we first started the broadcast at 4 this morning. So look at the panel on the right side of your screen. Let's run down the list and the latest numbers, beginning with the Nuns fire. It's still holding at about 51,000 acres in size, but the containment number is doing pretty good. We're about 53% containment for the Nuns fire. That's the one burning in the hills there between Napa and Sonoma, the towns of Napa and Sonoma. And then we have the Atlas fire. That's that large one, also 51,000 acres in size, burning to the east of downtown Napa. And that one actually has 77% containment this morning, and that's an increase from the 70% earlier today. The Tubbs fire, that's probably the one that's seen the most dramatic increase in containment, now at 82%. That is a big jump from the 75 that we had earlier. And then the Pocket fire burning to the north of that, that's also increased from 45% to now 58%. So firefighters making significant progress on hopefully getting a complete surrounding of these fires, and hopefully we can get them under control and ultimately extinguished.
Crown Forest Camila Bernal has more from Highway 12 near Kenwood, where the fire is still burning right now.
Good morning. I am at St. Francis Winery right off of Highway 12, and the Nuns fire continues to burn behind me. Those flames right now are covered by the smoke, but earlier this morning we were able to capture the flames, that orange color along the mountains, which means there is still a lot of work to be done. The Nuns fire right now has burned more than 51,500 acres. It's about 53% contained, so still a lot of work work to be done there. Some of the evacuation orders have reduced in the area, but it doesn't mean residents can come back. They still have to remain vigilant. There's still advisory and mandatory evacuation orders in this area. Thankfully, the fire is away from the people and further into the mountains, which is good in terms of lives and structures, but it's harder for the firefighters to get up to the mountain and battle those flames that are moving north and west. They are on both sides of Highway 12. Very close to where I'm standing is also the Oakmont fire. That grew to about 1,000 acres burned. Right now, it's at 16% containment. It's still very active and it's moving north at a moderate speed, so people still have to be careful in that area as well. I spoke to some of the firefighters who told me that this is what they signed up for. So even though they're tired, even though they've been working nonstop, they're very happy to be up there battling those flames, but they also hope that they can contain it a lot more and that their work can be done in the next couple of days, hopefully. Reporting in Kenwood, Camila Bernal, KRON 4 News.
All right, well, let's talk more about now what happens after people start coming back into these neighborhoods that we're seeing these evacuation orders being lifted, some of them coming back to not much.
Right. So what do you do? Where do you start with your insurance? State Farm Insurance Representative David Wong is here on set to talk about where you even begin.
Right.
David, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So, yeah, let's say now, right now, the people that are being allowed in are not going into rubble areas. They're going into maybe water and smoke damage because we're not allowed into the most destroyed areas yet. So let's say it's just water and smoke damage. Not your whole house is gone. What do you do?
Yeah, the first thing they should do is probably file a claim, and they can do that by talking to their local agent. They can also call in 1-800-SF-CLAIM. They can click online at statefarm.com under the claim section, and we actually have a mobile app that's a pocket agent app that they can just file their claim online right there. Once they do that, a claim representative will contact them. They will then go over their coverage, what's available.
So that's I guess the easy part is what we're talking about, the homes and businesses you can get into. What about, I'm in a shelter, I can't get into the burned out area, but I know my home is gone. Should I get the ball rolling? Should these people in shelters get the ball rolling before they even go back in?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they can get their claims started, and that way they can start making lists of inventories of items they might have lost, and you know, it's a long process if they've had a total loss.
You have to list everything that you had, or I mean, your whole house is burned to the ground.
Right.
Do they have to show you a picture of that, or do you just?
No, typically if they've got a home, we know they have a lot of items in their home, but they want a general list of things that they might have in their home so that they can start replacing them. Right. If they have any, you know, hugely valuable items, you know, if they can document that, you know, if they got some artwork or things like that. But generally, we expect that they'll have a lot of items in their home.
So just now, I guess, start brainstorming and creating that list so when they talk to a representative, at least they have somewhere to go from there.
Yeah.
And what if people, because a lot of people left just with minutes notice.
Right.
And they were trying to grab what they could, but maybe they didn't grab their insurance paperwork. If for those folks who are, I don't know what to tell a rep if I got one on the phone anyway. What's your advice to them?
Yeah, they can file their claim. If they don't have their insurance number or papers, hopefully they would maybe know which company they call. Call the company, they can give their name and address, and we can look them up.
Right, so at least you know the company, and then from their name, that's where they begin. But when we're looking at some of this, they've got everything they lost in the house. They have the house itself, and they have their car probably. A lot of the cars have been, you can see a car in that shot right there burned. So they're applying for everything, and they need all this stuff fast. You just go buy a new car and stay in a hotel and you pay for everything, or what? How quickly can they do that?
Yeah, we will cut folks checks so that they can have additional living expenses. Those who were prohibited to go to their homes, I encourage everybody to save their receipts because there's coverage for that subject to the deductible. But, you know, we want to make sure people are safe and are able to live. So we've been at the centers when we verify insurance or address, things like that. We've been able to cut them checks just for the immediate living expenses.
Oh, right.
So I guess the most immediate advice is get the process started. Because there's going to be a crush of claims that are going to be filed, and you try and tackle them in order as fast as you can, but the sooner you start the process, the better.
Yeah, it's a long process if they've lost everything. And, you know, my hearts and our hearts really go out to all these people, and really just want to give a shout out to the firefighters who've keeping everybody safe is amazing. But you know, we want to get the claims settled as quickly and efficiently as possible. So as they get that stuff done, I think filing the claim would be the first step.
All right, thanks a lot. We appreciate it. David Wong with State Farm Insurance, and the same holds for all the other insurance companies. You know what company you're with, and you start the ball rolling from there.
All right.
Time now is 8:55. Yeah, we'll have more in just a few minutes.
Were able to take with them when they evacuated did survive. However, it made it extra challenging having these animals with them living in their cars.
The part for me that sucked was I have a 90-pound pit bull that has car anxiety. So being in a car for a week was not fun for him. And so we had a bird, we have a disabled African gray, 3 cats, 2 dogs, and us in the cars.
A couple miles up into the hills from these people's homes, the fire got really close to them. You can see the scorched earth, just black from the Atlas fire. Wooden Valley Road here acted as a fire line. The left side of the street is burned. On the right side, there's like pristine vegetation, vineyards that seem untouched. However, if you look closer, some embers did make it over onto the hills up here and burned the grass. I saw this everywhere in Solano County and Napa County. The beautiful golden rolling hills of California right next to burnt black hills. This is a visual residents up here will be seeing for quite a while. In Solano County, Gabe Slate.
Oh, here's the cattle.
Yeah.
Here, cows. For Melissa and Austin Laley, it was painful seeing their 40 acres of Be Well Farms go up in smoke in the Sonoma County town of Glen Ellen. They lost everything, including their power. And without electricity,
no water. All the PVC that was above ground burnt up, so there's a lot of work. The trees, the pastures, the fence lines.
But one thing did survive here, their farm animals. How many animals are here, alive and well?
We have 12 cows and about 350 chickens.
And a couple goats.
And 2 goats.
And as long as they have livestock, they can rebuild their lives. And despite all the extensive damage and destruction here, there is hope and there is help on the way in the form of state and federal assistance. Fire victims can now register for disaster assistance through FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency.
There is more money being added. It's not going to be enough, though, and so Kamala and I are going to have to go to work.
But for farmers like the Laleys, there is no time to reflect on all they have lost. Is it too soon to even think about getting back into business?
We'll be pulling up drip tape next week and turning the fields under.
Temporary setback, but we should be up and running before we know it.
In Sonoma County, Mike Lurie.
This new video released by the Berkeley Fire Department.
The very latest, not only out of the North Bay with the wildfires there, but the new one that broke out overnight in the Santa Cruz Mountains out near Boulder Creek. Our live cameras following the progress of CAL FIRE as they're now dropping water from the air. There's a helicopter right there. We'll be back with continuing coverage in just a minute.
Parking lot where they would get their assignment. But the Kmart was fully engulfed in flames, so they moved on. To the right and left, firefighters could see flames. At one point, the crew was stationed outside a gas station that was also fully engulfed in flames.
I can actually feel that heat, Kyle.
Minutes later, the strike team was driving. They weren't initially sure what they were looking at here, but soon learned it was homes that had burned to the ground. At one point, firefighters found a row of unburned homes, set their truck up, and ran 5 water lines off that truck. The crew says the 30 or so homes behind them did not burn. They're happy to have helped, but wish they could have saved more. In fact, the company later learned that one of the homes that burned here belonged to one of their firefighters.
You're gonna have to cut to the left. That's all the gate. Open the gate. I can't breathe. hold on. I couldn't breathe, dude.
At the various images that we've seen coming through this weekend with fires still burning and neighborhoods devastated. And as we said, the pieces will have to start getting picked up. Starting today for some.
And looking at the different vantage points, let's go live to Will Tran. He was out early this morning in Oakville near the Robert Mondavi Winery. And it's hard to believe, Will, that on day 8 you could still see flames in the dark over your shoulder. Now in the daylight, it looks like smoke.
It's smoky in certain parts, still large orange flames in other areas. You can see the wineries right behind me. Look at the grapes, the rows and rows of grapes. And the winery is still open for business as far as work is concerned, believe it or not. And I'll show that to you in just a little bit. So let me step out of the way and let me zoom in and show you what's going on. So you can see there's the fire right there, and it still continues to burn. Although at this point, it looks like now it's dying down just a bit, a little bit smoky because the wind is starting to pick up a little bit, but not too bad, especially what we saw from what we saw last Monday. So I'll take this any day. But now that the sun is up, James and Daria, I get a better look, believe it or not, as opposed to those dark, the dark sky against the orange ball of fire. Well, now that the sun is up, I can really see the hillside. So there's the fire, right? And then you move along over here and you can still see smoke in the air blowing from the right to the left side of your screen. It looks like a rugged area. I don't see any roads leading up to it over the past 10 minutes or so. I did see some fire trucks race by here, make a right turn, and possibly up that roadway. On the other side of the trees, that's the winery. That's the roadway. That's the roadway that they still have employees driving down to. And then I did see some deliveries taking place. Highway 29 is over here, just to give you the lay of the land. Remember I talked about how there could be some new emergency paramedics, the first responders. There it is, guys. So now that they're up now, they can clearly see it just like I can. You can see there's an emergency, a first responder racing down Highway 29. I would imagine doing the same thing as the other crews did, make a right turn and try to make it up that hill. As far as the fire is concerned, you can see it is there, but we've been monitoring this, and I've been going live from this location pretty much for the last 90 minutes. Is it just my imagination, guys, or do you think this fire seems to be dying down just a bit for now? And now that the sun is up, I would not be surprised if they go up in the air and drop some fire retardant on it.
Well, that would be good, but what shocked me, Will, more than anything, in the dark, I saw the glow of the flames, but now you're panning back and forth. I get the size. It looks bigger than I thought, you know, because in the light, you can see just how far it stretches over that mountain.
Yeah, look at that. So it's on that hillside. At first, I mean, you focus obviously on the orange glow. That's what catches your eye. But now that the sun is up, you can not only see the orange glow, you can see the topography. You can see the hillside. And it's a massive hillside, and there is a bed of smoke, a blanket of smoke all over this hillside that stretches as far as I can possibly see. The good news is the authorities, they've done such a wonderful job. They know of lives or structures or damage. So if there's anything, they would shut down this freeway. So let this freeway, Highway 29, at least tell you, at least at this particular point, they have a handle on things. We did show that first responder racing by the scene, but at least the sense of urgency, what we saw just a couple of days ago, at least that urgency has died down just a bit, guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the story today, the containment numbers are so much better. Yeah. But I feel like KRON 4, a lot of other stations will just hit this breaking news, and then like a day like today, oh, it's been 8 days, containment's better, let's just forget about it.
No.
You know, and they just it was like a story they covered, and it's gone. It's not gone.
It is not
it's
gone.
still our big story, and it's all that we're covering here on the KRON 4 Morning News.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, and you just saw Will with his live camera looking at those hills on fire.
Yeah.
That's that hill, that line of hills that separate the Napa and the Sonoma valleys. And actually, directly on the other side of that ridge line is where we have KRON 4's Camila Bernal. She's along Highway 12 up near Kenwood. And so, Camila, tell us, what are you seeing from your vantage point on the other side of those flames that Will was just showing us?
Good morning. So I just actually actually drove a little bit north from Highway 12 on Adobe Canyon Road to see if I could get a better view of the flames. And I do have a better view of the flames up there, but right now, again, they're covered in smoke. But those flames are up there on that mountain. As you just saw, you know, first responders driving towards that mountain because that's where that fire is. If you take a look at the video that we captured overnight, you'll be able to have a better picture of those flames. That is the Nuns Fire. It's burned about 50,000 acres in this area, and it's only about 40% contained. It's a better number than what we've been reporting all week, but it's still, you know, not even halfway there. The fire activity in the mountain behind me is moderate, so a lot better than active, but they still have a lot of work to be done. Here in this area, the Oakmont Fire is very nearby as well. It's almost 600 acres that are burned for that fire, and it's only 15% contained, so a lot more work on the Oakmont Fire, and it's very active. Firefighters are telling us that that fire in particular is smaller but a lot more active than the other fires. Both of these fires are traveling north up into these mountains, and so of course firefighters continue to go up there. They say it's a lot harder to travel up north and into those mountains than when it was, you know, closer to the people. So the good news is that it's not close to the people and the homes, but the bad news is that it's a lot harder for those firefighters.
This is new video released by the Berkeley Fire Department showing what those with Engine 6 experienced when they were called to the Tubbs Fire in Santa Rosa early Monday morning.
Wow, pretty big flames over there.
They made their way to Santa Rosa along Highway 101 with a strike team that included 4 other trucks and a leader. Miles before they arrived, they could see the glow of flames coming from Santa Rosa. The plan was to meet in the Kmart parking lot where they would get their assignment. But the Kmart was fully engulfed in flames, so they moved on. To the right and left, firefighters could see flames. At one point, the crew was stationed outside a gas station that was also fully engulfed in flames.
I can actually feel that heat, Kyle.
Minutes later, the strike team was driving. They weren't initially sure what they were looking at here, but soon learned it was homes that had burned to the ground. At one point, firefighters found a row of unburned homes, set their truck up, and ran 5 water lines off that truck. The crew says the 30 or so homes behind them did not burn. They're happy to have helped, but wish they could have saved more. In fact, the company later learned that one of the homes that burned here belonged to one of their...
Hey guys, good morning. So I actually have a little bit of updated information. I'm with Dominic Polito with CAL FIRE, and he has new numbers. So let's just get right into it. What are the new numbers and what can we say?
We're at a total acreage of 97,781 for the entire complex. As far as the Nuns Fire, where we are right now, we're at 48,627. And a lot of the other numbers are the same as far as the number of personnel on the fire and whatnot.
And we have gained some more containment of basically all of the fires except the Oakmont.
Correct. Yeah. The current containment, the Tubbs Fire, we're at 70%. The Pocket Fire, we're at 40%. The Nuns Fire, we're at 50%. The Oakmont's at 15%. So we are actually increasing on the Oakmont, but it has grown in size as well.
Okay. So is it a lot of good news? What are we looking forward to?
Okay, so the good news is the wind has died down. Okay, this was a wind-driven fire. If you have 40 to 60 mile per hour winds, you have 40, 60 mile per hour fire. Okay, so those have died down, and so that's in our favor. Unfortunately, today it's going to be hotter, and the precipitation and the percentage of humidity is still very low. So the fire conditions are still very available, but they're not wind-driven, so that will give us a heads up on attacking the fire.
And tell me about the guys up there. You know, there's so many of them who are putting their lives in danger for all of us. Are they tired? What's the status on the crews?
Yeah, they're tired, but they're tough. You know, they're made for this. They get into this because they like it and because they enjoy serving the community, and we're all here to help.
And there's more men and women who are up there and are assessing, you know, and are getting those numbers. Is it good news also in terms of the structures and what has been damaged and what they're being able to look at now?
Yeah, with the increase in personnel, we are getting a better handle on structure protection. In the beginning, there was no one available. And so the few local crews were working really hard to do what they could, but without the numbers, it's very difficult. Now that we have the numbers, we have, if you drive up Adobe right now, you'll see fire engines parked in front of each structure with hoses wrapped around. They've scratched line. They've cleaned out all the extra ornamental vegetation, the things that would catch the house on fire, and they're prepping all the structures.
So good news for the families in this area. Should they still be alert? You know, you just never know, or is it kind of you're on the safe side now?
No, you should always be alert. Things are ever changing. Weather's ever changing. This fire is ever changing. So just keep a heads up. If you are in a warning area, then you need to be prepared. Have your go bags. Have everything prepared to leave. If you get that evacuation notice, just look around you. I'd highly recommend evacuating.
Thank you so much. So you've heard it from him. Much better, but we still need to remain alert, and we just don't know what can happen next. Back to you guys.
Yeah, actually, Camila, we are now...
When we're on these 24-hour shifts,
all
the hardest...
with full services, inpatient care, emergency care, everything they had before the fire. Let's take a look at the surveillance video we have from Sunday night. The time lapse shows countless fires surrounding the building. Employees that were working here at the time had to get fire extinguishers and start acting as firefighters until help came. There were dozens of patients in the hospital at the time. Officials say they safely evacuated 77 patients within those 6 hours, all the while, literally, while the fire is moving closer to the facility. And it wasn't just patients that employees were dealing with. They also had fire evacuees showing up looking for shelter. A spokesperson for the hospital says the facility was built in 2014 for disaster, but they haven't seen anything close to this. And they say reopening the doors took a lot of work. The facility needed a lot of cleanup, and they had to do a lot of things to pass inspections. Let's take a listen.
The Incident Command Center for Sutter Health was extremely valuable in helping us restock with supplies quickly and giving us all the support that we needed to make this happen. And then, of course, the people here on the ground working. We had about 55 cleaners here on this last weekend. They're medical professional cleaners cleaning the hospital. We've been restocking the hospital with supplies.
So as of 7 o'clock this morning, again, Sutter Regional Hospital is back in business, open for full services, including inpatient and emergency care. Live in Santa Rosa, Hermela Argawi, KRON 4 News.
Thanks a lot, Hermela.
Well, as we talk more about services getting back online, we can update you now that 4 of the 7 Sonoma County post offices that were closed because of the wildfires are now back open today. We have the post office on 8th Street in Weinberg, the Boys Hot Springs post office off the Sonoma Highway, and the El Verano post office on Bay Street. They're all open for business today. Now, there is some adjustment to the hours of operation. For instance, the Sonoma post office at 617 Broadway will have limited operation only from noon to about 7 o'clock tonight. Mail from the Glen Ellen, Kenwood, and Eldridge offices, which are still being impacted by the fires there, they will continue to be routed through Petaluma.
And what about the mail carriers? I saw one weird shot of a mail carrier. Did you see that?
Delivering mail
going
to
through,
a burned out neighborhood.
because some was, some homes were like occupied and standing, and the others were burned out. And in this case, some of the businesses are able to go back, because remember we told you can go into Calistoga.
Right.
They lifted some of the orders there, and this tasting room poured some wine for tourists. Believe it or not, yes, there are tourists there. I think these tourists that we talked to were from Texas. Pacifico Restaurant had a sandwich board out front too. You can get sandwiches there. They said we're open, and everybody, all the businesses are putting out signs as they open saying thank you to firefighters, and homes that were saved. They're allowed back in, and they're putting thank you for saving our home. Yeah,
very grateful for what they have this morning. As we go to break, we'll also remind you though that we are following a new fire. This one broke out overnight while you were sleeping, and you see the smoke rising above the Santa Cruz Mountains. Yes. A fire now to our south in the Santa Cruz Mountains out near Boulder Creek. KRON 4's Will Tran is on it. We'll get a live update in just a little bit.
So you've got the Patrick fire on one side and then the Atlas Peak fire on the other side, and they could see those fires start encroaching on their property. So they did get out. But later last week on Friday, Alexis Pattis, one of the daughter of the family, she decided, you know what, I need to go back. I'm going to get some family valuables and things like that. And she happened to get a call from someone who said they had a sales rep with some gel-based fire retardant that's meant for homes, and that she could pick some up from that representative in Sonoma. So she did. She went out to Sonoma to meet a man who was offering that gel-based retardant, and he went above and beyond, giving her that property-saving chemical.
He truly is our guardian angel. He came up with me. He helped me block vents in case embers got in the area. He helped me block out the certain trees that were kind of near the house that might be a problem if the fire got near. He helped me, actually brought a chainsaw and helped me cut down certain tree branches that might be.
The north, some of the other fires are also burning to the north at a moderate pace. Firefighters have made good progress over the last few days. They said at the press conference today that they are now fighting pockets of fire in some remote acres kind of up in the hills. But they're very concerned. The State Route 12 here, Highway 12 between Santa Rosa and Sonoma is closed, but it is busy with activity. There are fire crews from all over the state, all over the west, going back and forth here. I've seen crews also looking for any hot spots where the embers might have come down and started a new fire down closer to the road. So they are very actively fighting this fire right now. They've got bulldozers out there trying to get containment lines around this fire and the other fires. They did say today at the briefing that the fire had jumped their bulldozer lines a couple of times today, but they were able to get in there and get those fires.
This is video from early Sunday morning as the Tubbs fire ripped through Mark West Springs Road in Santa Rosa. Jennifer Arrington and her son Tommy, who live there, were forced out of their home at 1:30 in the morning.
So we went outside and saw the fire and started to evacuate ourselves. And then we met the sheriffs at the bottom of our driveway, and he told us there wasn't a way out and to go to Mark West Lodge.
A Sonoma County Sheriff's deputy led them along with 30 others into this lodge parking lot where they waited in their cars for 5 hours, hoping the flames wouldn't consume them.
It was back in the traffic center, taking a look at any hot spots or hazards that you might encounter this morning. Robin.
This time it's BART.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Track maintenance, but it's happening today and tomorrow. It's the emergency.
I always think people are going to be just not listening and going, what is wrong with this
What's
picture?
happening here? Okay. We're missing a box. But take a look at this box. Talking about BART, we have a major delay. There's some track maintenance work that's happening today and tomorrow from 9 a.m. until 2 in the afternoon, and it's going to cause major delays. Right now, delays up to 20 minutes on the Fremont Warm Springs line in all direction because of that track maintenance work that's happening right now between Union City and Fremont. But keep in mind, it's going to be underway again tomorrow, 9 a.m. until 2 a.m., so plan ahead. Meanwhile, you're backed up into the Oakland maze, slow here heading into San Francisco, but no major issues. It's under 20 minutes for the drive in. Here's 92. This was our hotspot earlier this morning. It's looking much, much better. 28 minutes from the Nimitz out to 101. No big problems for now. Richmond-Santa Fe Bridge still sluggish back from Castro, but a quiet commute into the North Bay. Checking in on Traffic Tracker, drive times are improving in most spots. Highway 4 back at the limit. 680 Dublin to Fremont. We'll call it moderate crowding. It's 26 minutes. But take a look at the Nimitz and that heavy traffic on 880 South. It's because of the earlier delays on the Dumbarton and the San Mateo Bridge. So nothing major going on right now, but it's about 60 minutes to make your way out to 237 and the usual drive time for 101 from Morgan Hill to San Jose. All right, that's a look at traffic. Annie Hong standing by with a look at your forecast.
Yeah, we're talking about air purifiers, because I got 3 over the last couple of days. So I'm glad I did, because it's still hazy out there. And in fact, at SFO, we are tracking some delays this morning. Quick check of our other camera network here of Morgan Hill, also seeing some high clouds there as well. So SFO delay average is just over 30 minutes on those arriving flights, but no problems for Oakland and San Jose airports. Okay, so San Francisco, whoa, we're cooling down quite a bit. We saw low 80s yesterday. It was pretty warm in the city. We'll see low 70s this afternoon, so a little more comfortable. 75 in Oakland and low 80s in San Jose. Our air quality forecast for today. So I just looked at the current air quality levels. It's orange which means unhealthy, sensitive, right around San Francisco and the North Bay. But the forecast for today is going to be moderate for most locations across the bay, with the exception of the North Bay. Things gradually improve. I think we're going to see good air quality by Thursday and Friday. Okay, right now temperatures are in the mid-60s already in San Francisco. Boy, I'm wondering if I have to increase my high for the city today. Low 60s in Oakland, 50s now up in the North Bay, and we do see some high clouds out there right now. Our forecast high for today, so the cool down begins. It's a gradual cool down. We'll see low 80s in Napa and Santa Rosa, 85 in Concord, 70s for the East Bay shoreline, and 81 in San Jose. Let's talk about that rain. We've all been waiting for it, firefighters for sure, and it looks like it's actually going to be kind of coming through Thursday night. Maybe the North Bay will probably get some rain. I think we'll see it in the North Bay. The question is, how far south will this rain go? Now, this model not really bringing it much to the Bay Area. In fact, keeping it well east of us, out toward the Tahoe area. And then we're going to probably see temperatures warm right back up to above average by Sunday and Monday. So here is your 4-zone forecast for the next 7 days. The cooling begins today and will continue. We'll see the winds pick up Thursday and Friday, but with those winds, we'll see cooler air and possibly some rain.
Time for winners and losers on Wall Street. Rob Black joining us, and we are going to be focusing this segment on a lot of the issues you're going to be dealing with as we're all recovering from the North Bay wildfires and now the Santa Cruz wildfires. So lots of questions to get to. And so, Rob, one of the topics we wanted to delve into today was more specifically there's going to be such a rebuilding process in the wake of all of this. What do people do? I mean, you got to live somewhere while you're trying to rebuild your home. How do you juggle that? And is there anything out there that can help you with that?
And keep in mind, we were already in a hot market for real estate.
Right.
Now we're in a hotter market. Excuse the play on fire terms. I'm not trying to go there. But thousands of homes have burned down in Santa Rosa. I think I saw a statistic of about 5% of houses. So yes, the insurance is going to help you rebuild, but where do you live in the meantime? That's going to be a problem. So we've already started to see real estate agents getting bombarded by people begging, I need something, anything. So when there was only 2 months of real estate available for sale, growing about 4% year over year, now it'll be growing 10% year over year, if not more, because the epic scale of the devastation of the catastrophe. Median sales price used to be about $620,000 in the Bay Area. Santa Rosa area, a little bit cheaper, but again, expect that number. If you want to buy a home to go up, you're going to have to outbid everyone. And if you want to rent, that's going to be a problem. The big problem is going to be for workers in Santa Rosa and the Bay Area. We don't know the scope of losing those workers to other states and to other areas. So again, a lot of homes destroyed, not a lot of supply in the first place. It's going to get worse. We've heard rumors of insurance companies going in and leasing a whole apartment building so they can put people somewhere while their homes are being rebuilt. Wow. But then again, construction workers were in a shortage already, and it's going to be even worse after this catastrophe. So if you find something, consider yourself lucky. Nail it down. Consider leaving the state if you can, staying with family, leasing a place if you have to. Housing is going to be a very serious problem going forward, and first come, first serve. So get on it, so to speak.
Well, and I mean, we're talking about how long of a rebuilding process to build a home, at least a year.
Probably at least a year, but again, with a shortage of workers, maybe up to 2 years. Wow. With shortage of supplies. Again, that's why you're going to want to get that check from your insurance company. Try to line up contractors sooner than later. If you have an architect friend, you may want to start working in that area. Some people are just going to take the check and leave the area. Maybe they won't rebuild. Maybe they'll buy out of state. It's going to be interesting to watch, but housing was already a problem before this, and it's going to get significantly worse, especially in the North Bay.
And so that's interesting. Those homeowners that are opting perhaps maybe to just leave, they still own that land. Do you think there's going to be an uptick of people that are just offering these lots for anybody who wants to come in and build because they're out?
And there's some disaster there too. Yeah. In Houston and in Florida after the hurricanes, you saw poachers come in and offer 40 cents on the dollar for your real estate. Oh, be really? Very cautious right now. And like I said recently, be careful with insurance companies. They're going to want to give you a check and close your claim. You're in no rush. Take your time. Keep the claim open. Other things will crop up.
All right. And one quick viewer question before we go. And this is particularly pertinent for the situation we're in right now. This is Sean saying, how do I replace important documents after a fire like this? And a lot of people didn't run out of the house with all of their birth certificate, social security card, all these things.
Yeah, this was a big issue that people asked me at the gym yesterday, and a lot of people ran out of their homes with just the clothes on their back. DMV.org has a lot of information to replace your driver's license. You want to start there probably. You'll need things like proof of ownership of that home or of residence, like a gas bill or a phone bill. If you're going to be replacing things like your birth certificate, that's California Department of Public Health. That could be your birth certificate, that could be your wedding certificate, that could be your wedding license, that could be your death certificates that you might have. Everything's replaceable, but it takes time. Your passport's going to take the most amount of time, so go to www.state.gov, and again, you'll find all the information there. It's going to be a process, and hopefully you got one of those documents because they kind of all start to support each other when you're looking for replacements.
All right, good enough. Rob, thank you very much. And if you have any other questions for Rob, send them to him either through your Facebook, KRON4.com. Reach out to him. We'll try and answer those questions here in the days to come.
Some picture from this morning. This one that you're looking at is actually more upright than a lot of the homes around it, believe it or not. What was actually, or what used to be a bustling neighborhood, is now this ghost town, just so eerie. The power is still out. So it's very dark, but you can see that a lot of the homes are completely destroyed to the ground. One trailer home park nearby is completely gone. Many businesses also destroyed, including the Hilton, the Fountain Grove Inn, and some restaurants. The destruction more than a week later is still absolutely stunning, and sad to think about how many families have lost everything and will have to start over. We're learning that Sutter is opening its doors this morning, so we'll go over there and have that report for you in the 7 o'clock hour. Reporting live in Santa Rosa, Hermel Argawi.
My left shoulder, that is the foot of the Santa Cruz Mountains. Over the past hour, unfortunately, a Cal Fire firefighter fell down about 50 feet down a ravine, and right now they are working to rescue him. They're using ropes. He fell down so hard, and in the middle of the night, obviously it's still dark here, that he suffered a broken wrist. He has facial lacerations, so cuts to his face. He appears to be okay. They are talking to him, but it's in an area that is hard to reach, so they have to rappel down there using rope, get him back up, and they don't know how close they are to doing that mission. And then once that happens, they'll take him to the hospital to be checked out. It does not appear at this time there are life-threatening injuries, but of course with the fires still raging on the hillside, they want to remove him as quickly as possible. It does not appear that he is surrounded by fire at this time. Possibly he lost his step because it was dark. There was treacherous. Let's face it, it's a rugged, remote area of the Santa Cruz Mountains in this particular area, and with no lights, that makes it even tougher to get around. So he fell down 50 feet, broke his wrist, cuts to his face, and once again,
burned down to the ground. Some restaurants, although a lot of businesses also did survive these fires. We've seen how unpredictable they can be. One building is completely upright and the next one is completely burned down to the ground. Some businesses that did survive, Kaiser, which is right across the street from the Hilton, which was burned down. Kaiser was saved, apart from a couple of patio umbrellas that melted. Again, hundreds of homes around here completely decimated. A trailer home park gone. You see cars that are melted like plastic. It's almost hard to believe that there was ever anything here. A lot of roads.
But it's still, very close to halfway contained, so there's still a lot of acreage that is burning at the moment, and some evacuations have reduced because it is away from the people and into the mountain. But take a look at those flames right there. I mean, it's just impressive, and it's just, you see those orange and you see it burning and you see it up there on the mountain, so it becomes a lot more real when you're able to see those flames up there. Very close to where I'm standing is also the Oakmont fire. That is about 1,000 acres right now that are burned, and it's 16% contained, so it's still very active. I mean, and if you want to see active, you're just looking at it, because those are the flames of this fire, of this Nuns fire, and the firefighters, they are up there and they're doing their best to try to battle that, but it's just impressive. And as the wind moves, we're able to have a better view. Even though it is covered by the smoke, you can still kind of see it back there. So it doesn't mean, you know, it's not there. It's still there. It's just a lot harder to see when the smoke comes in. The sun comes up and then the smoke is just a lot more visible. But the flames are still there, and they outline the entire mountain. And I'm just looking at big thick cloud of smoke, and then you see those little spots where the flames are. Of course, you see that orange and you see it that it's still burning. Firefighters still have a lot of work up there on that mountain, and they tell me that, you know, the good news is that it's removed from the people. The bad news is that it's a lot harder to get up there at the top of that mountain where the fire is burning. All throughout the morning I've seen those flames and they just grow. You know, I can't say the fire is growing, I'm not sure, but the flames are definitely growing, and they're easy to see when you're down here. I am very close to St. Francis Vineyard, and it's right off of Highway 12, and this fire is actually moving north.
We actually have video of that for you, surveillance video in a time lapse. As you will see people running out of there. The hospital says it safely evacuated 77 patients within 6 hours. You can also see in the video fire completely surrounding the facility. I spoke with a security guard that was working that night. He tells me everything happened so quickly. The employees weren't just dealing with how to evacuate patients safely, but there was also fire
Talking about the brand new wildfire that just started this morning in the darkness around 4 o'clock in the morning in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and it has spread to over 125 acres. 150 people in about 150 different homes have been evacuated, and 5 firefighters have been hurt battling these flames already this morning, but they are making headway. They're hitting it from the ground and from above. We've seen many helicopter drops live on our air this morning.
Yeah, and thankfully a lot of those injuries were minor. Nothing major to those firefighters. That's good news. Take a look at the map on your screen. This is where the fire is burning and some of the roads that had to be evacuated early this morning. Everybody, we're told, got out safely, and now the work is underway to get containment on this fire and hopefully get it put out before it gets any bigger than it is right now.
So let's go back out live to KRON 4's Will Tran. He's been there since it broke out. Will, what's it look like now?
New numbers to pass along. Now we're at 5% containment, but the acreage has gone up from 125 to 152 acres. And I talked to CAL FIRE about 2 minutes ago, and they will have an official news conference in about half an hour from now. So the numbers have gone up as far as the acres. Air quality has gotten worse since the last time you saw me at 9 o'clock. Look at that. Now the smoke is even closer to us. You might not even be able to see on television. I can probably see it in my vantage point, but on television, it might be hard to make out some of the helicopters crisscrossing this area. I can hear them nearby, but it has gotten so smoky that we don't even see the flames. We do know that firefighters are there. I hear chainsaws. I hear people talking behind me, so they're on the ground trying to put out the fire as well. And because they were on the ground in the overnight hours, that caused 5 firefighters to be injured. One was an inmate for smoke inhalation. And then at around 6:30 or so, once the sun was coming up a little bit, so it was a little bit lighter, one firefighter from CAL FIRE fell down a ravine about 50 feet, broken wrist, and I'll keep quiet for just a few seconds just to make out the helicopter. So there it is, right? You can't see it, but you can hear the helicopter. They're going over presumably to the Lexington Reservoir, which is off of Highway 17. So about 5 or 6 miles from this location, restocking with water and coming right back. So I've timed it. It might take about maybe 5 to 6 minutes from the time they leave this area to come back and continue to do those water drops. Now, I can tell you that in the past, say, hour and a half since that news conference, no new firefighters have been injured, and they hopefully no more firefighters will be injured, because now that the sun is up, they can see the steep terrain, they can see what they're walking on and how far below they are. So that hopefully will cut down on at least the danger factor in this area. This is Bear Creek Canyon. It is very steep, it's rugged, it's very, just goes straight up almost, and because of that, it's going to be hard for a lot of the firefighters to get to that area, which is why they needed those water drops. So they're hitting it with a 1-2 one punch. The good news is there are no homes eminently threatened, about 150 homes, as you talked about, James. They evacuated those homes early on so there would not be a rush, a chaos when they evacuated those people, and it was very orderly, and that was necessary because this is such a windy, steep area of Santa Cruz Mountains that you could easily run off the road in the middle of the night or get really hurt. And because they didn't want that, they evacuated people very early on in the process. This is going to be a long fight. This is probably going to be all day, maybe until tomorrow. They have already anticipated possibly calling in for more help. Right now, we're sitting at about 250 firefighters from CAL FIRE and other local agencies, departments like the San Jose Fire Department, here to help fight the fire. And look at this, Daria. Breathing has gotten incredibly difficult over the past half an hour, right? You were watching this as I was watching it. You were watching it live on Crown 4. Can you make out the trees and the ridgeline anymore? Because I certainly can't from my vantage point.
Yeah, that was all trees. We even saw a house, remember, way back when he zoomed in up in the mountains there, because he was showing us how the different houses are all kind of tucked in.
Can't make it out anymore.
So we're going to talk with Annie a little bit more about the air quality. And, you know, we sent out the push alert at 4:10 this morning, and when people see smoke in the Bay Area today, they might think, oh, it's from the North Bay fires all the way down here. But no, now we've got a new fire source pushing air into our area.
And Annie, I guess because the winds aren't blowing all that much, the smoke's really settling into the valleys this morning.
It is. It's really going to be probably very thick, hard to breathe where Will is at, because right now the winds are fairly calm. Now we could see the winds push some of that smoke over to the east, and that does include communities like Morgan Hill and Gilroy. Right now, we do have fairly calm winds for the Boulder Creek area and also in Santa Cruz, but those winds are forecast to blow westerly in the Santa Cruz area. Boulder Creek generally coming in from the northwest. So we'll have to watch the air quality in the South Bay and areas south of the Santa Clara area over the next several hours. Also pretty hazy still at the Golden Gate Bridge, so air quality still an issue today for many parts of the Bay, even though things are slowly improving. Our high for today, it'll be cooler than yesterday. We'll see temperatures topping out in the 70s for the Bay shoreline and 80s for inland spots, including the North Bay, where firefighters are still battling those fires in Santa Rosa and also in wine country. We're also tracking, though, for some rain to arrive later in the week, and that's going to bring some big relief to the firefighting efforts, and also it'll help clear out the air. Let's check out your traffic now with Robin.
But if you take this every day, you know that, yes, it's still crawling from the maze. It gets better across the upper deck. Your average drive under 15 minutes to make it over to Fremont Street. Daria, James?
Thanks a lot. Let's get back to our wildfire coverage and head up to the North Bay and show you the progress that has been made so far on all the fires burning there.
And we have seen just about all of them increase in terms of containment, which has been great to see. Let's begin with the Nuns fire, and we'll have some information we'll put on the screen here. The first stop, though, is the Nuns fire. That's that one burning and really impacting the Sonoma Valley. 51,000 acres in size, 53% containment, so better than halfway. The Atlas fire across the Napa Valley up to the mountains in the east, we're looking at 77% containment. That's up from the 70 earlier this morning. The Tubbs fire now at 82% containment. So great progress on that front. That's the fire that's been impacting northern Santa Rosa and burning all the way out towards places like Calistoga. And then finally we have the Pocket fire burning to the north up near Geyserville. That one's 12,000 acres in size, but it also saw an increase in its containment. It was at 45. It's now at 58%.
9:39, and we'll be back with more in just a minute.
In the air tankers, right? So, but we're doing in conjunction with that, and you always have to have a good ground attack when air support is there, because they put the water, the retardant on the fire, then good ground attack will come back and help strengthen that.
What about the weather conditions?
Weather conditions right now, I haven't looked at the weather for a while. They're light, the winds are light. Last RHs I heard dropped 4% when we did it, I think at 3 o'clock in the morning, which was at 20%. So RHs are between 16 and 20% right now.
So how is that? Is that helping to feel on low humidity? Obviously, is an issue, but the calm winds, it's got to be a relief for you guys.
Yeah, luckily the winds aren't there yet, but think about it, over the last week and a half, 10 days, we've had north wind, a lot of drying, and everything's really, really dry. So it's challenging.
Considering the fires in the North Bay, we talked about this earlier, but considering the fires in the North Bay, do you have the resources you need here to handle this fire, and can you draw additional resources?
So far, everything that we've ordered, we've had fills on.
How many fires?
Around 225, 250 right now. Anything else?
Biggest concerns going forward? I mean, you've got any weather concerns, winds, I know rain possibly coming on Thursday.
Correct, rain coming in on Thursday. I don't know if it's going to reach down this far. I haven't seen the morning weather report yet. Biggest concern, life safety, firefighter, and civilian safety as well.
The fact you've had 5 firefighters injured already, I mean, are you guys saying anything to these firefighters, or is there anything that can be done really to prevent it when they're fighting in this type of terrain?
Yeah, it's really interesting. All the injuries occurred in the daylight, not in the dark time. So they know, we've given them a briefing on what to look for, what to be responsible for, and also what to watch out for. So that's what it is.
Sorry, you said they happened in the daylight? They didn't happen overnight?
Just the ones that fell down the ravine and the one that had the couple that slipped. Smoke inhalation happened at night, but the ones that were tripping happened just right at the turn of daylight. Any other questions?
Injury happened that night from the one gentleman who was
The Nuns fire. That fire continues to burn and right now is only 53% contained. It has already burned more than 51,500 acres and it's moving north and west on both sides of Highway 12. Now, some evacuations in the area have reduced, but people need to remain alert as there are still advisories and mandatory evacuations in the area. Very close to where I'm standing is also the Oakmont fire. That also grew to more than 1,000 acres burned. Right now, that is 16% contained and it is still very active. It's moving north at a moderate speed. Now, crews continue to give it all they've got and they say they will continue to fight these flames because that is what they're here for. Reporting in Kenwood, Camila Bernal, KRON 4 News.
All right, time now 9:42, and again, we'll be back with continuing coverage this morning of the North Bay fires and the fires in Santa Cruz. In fact, coming up next, we'll tell you why one North Bay woman is searching for a Sonoma County sheriff this morning. She wants to give him a big hug and say thank you. We'll explain why.
Patrol in that area trying to fight it from the ground. That person fell down a ravine about 50 feet, broke his wrist, and then over the course of the next hour or so. So the news conference is around 8:15, so somewhere between 7:30 and around 8 o'clock in the morning. 3 other firefighters were hurt, but according to the chief with CAL FIRE, those 3 should be evacuated at the scene and does not need, or they don't need to be taken to the hospital. This fire, the good news is the acreage remains the same. 125 acres burned, and that exploded in the overnight hours. This started at around 11 o'clock last night. It started with a fire at a structure. Not sure if it's like a garage or a home, but they're just saying it's the structure. And then it exploded to 30 acres, and then it jumped to 125 acres. Right now, where we're sitting, 0% containment. Fortunately, no fatalities, no homes eminently threatened, but they were able to get ahead of the fire, told some people, about 150 people in the area, you have to evacuate now before the fires get too close, and at that time it'll be all out panic and chaos. When they were able to evacuate these people, these are windy, steep roads. It was in an orderly fashion where they were not injured. I can tell you, driving up here from 17, it's about 6 miles up the hill from Highway 17. There are plenty of checkpoints, and there are a lot of residents out there at the checkpoints looking at the firefighting efforts, looking at what's going on, trying to get updates from the CAL FIRE crews that are still arriving at the scene. That number jumped. In the overnight hours, they had a handful of firefighters. Right now, we're sitting at around 250 firefighters, and they have the ability to call even more firefighters to the scene. There's that ridge, that hillside, that's called Bear Creek Canyon, I should say, and how rugged that is. CAL FIRE said The winds are not a problem, right? And that's what they were dealing with in the North Bay, the winds, which carried the embers all over the place. So the firefighters were just racing around trying to put out the fire. It appears that the fire is in this area, so the winds are not carrying the embers. And I can hear a helicopter getting close to us again. So maybe my microphone will be able to pick up the helicopter. But the roll down effect